Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Feedback Loop live here on Studio Live Today. My name is Pete Johns, and this is Studio Live Today, where I help you create, record, and release your best music. Now, what are we up to today? Well, we've got another hopefully interesting and entertaining show for you today. After last week's live stream, which a lot of folks seem to really enjoy, which was my GarageBand iOS exclusive episode, what I'm doing today is I'm actually going to break down the top 10, that many, questions that I've had in the last 12 months in 2018 about GarageBand iOS. So the channel here is not just about GarageBand iOS, it's about creating, mobile creating in the home studio, and basically creating, recording, and releasing music. But GarageBand iOS is something that I use a lot, that I know a lot of you folks use a lot, so I wanted to do another episode here today. So we will jump in to those not pre-recorded, but those predetermined questions that I had before. I'll just make sure everything is set up here. Hello to all of those folks who are here on the live stream. Hello to Alex, hello to Kenneth, hello to Isaac. If you can let me know that everything is coming through loud and clear, and if we need any volume tweaks or anything through the show, then just give me a shout and let me know. So 2018 has been a pretty massive year. Last week, I went through all of the different things that had happened, all the different updates that we'd had in 2018. So I'm not going to rehash that again here today. We had all of the different updates. A really quick one: we had the Flex and Flow pack, we had the Toy Box sound pack, we had the note labels, copy and paste between projects. MIDI was a massive thing, importing MIDI loops, drummer loops, the keyboard shortcuts, the wah stomp box, the vintage drum machine. So none of those are what you'd consider game changers. So none of those are going to blow you away. But what actually happened in 2018 also is that a heap more people started using GarageBand on their iPhone and their iPad. So I've been using it for about 3 years now in sort of detail. So I recorded and released an EP in April of 2017. I then did an album in August of 2018. And I'm now working on another single and a bunch of other songs in 2019. So I've been using GarageBand on iOS for about 3 years, and enjoying every moment of it. It is a great platform to use, and we're going to jump in and look at those top 10 questions. Hello to a few other folks here. We've got Chris here from the East Coast in the US. We've got Mr. Mark Clift from up in Wales. We've got Endel from Haiti. Awesome. Love to have folks from different parts. Chris Bolpert and Gino, my man Gino from Chicago. Welcome to you all. So I usually have an opening monologue or rant, but we've got an hour. We're 5 minutes in already, so I'm going to jump in and start talking about my top 10. So I've gone through painstakingly, not really painstakingly, it was kind of fun. I've gone through all of my comments, all of my notes, all of my responses to comments that I've had on videos, and I've collated my top 10. I've actually got 11. So we're going to go through all of those now. I'll jump in and I'll do 2 or 3, and then I'll jump back and see if we have any live questions. Now, there was someone who left a question when I first posted this, and I've lost it in the chat here, so I can't remember who it was. But if you're here, repost your question. If you do have a question that you want me to cover here, maybe just put question or some question marks around it, or just some caps at the start that say question, just so that I can catch that in the chat and we can talk about that. So what is the number? I'm not going to do countdown style. I've just got these in any random order, but I'm actually going to go from the bottom to the top just for fun for me. So the number one question, or one of the questions that I get the most, is what do I need to actually run GarageBand? So what iPhone or iPad do I need? And in fact, I put together, because of this question, because I get this question a lot, I actually put together a guide that I have on my website. So I'm actually going to go there now. Studio Live, I'm going to try and remember my own website, studiolivetoday.com/ let's look at iPads first. So I've got a couple of charts here. We'll just, once I'm in here, I'll flick it over. Basically, to run the GarageBand, you need a more recent version. So if you've got an iPad 1 or an iPad 2, pretty much up to iPad 4 or the iPad mini 1, you're not going to be able to run GarageBand. And anything earlier than an iPhone 5S, you're not going to be able to run. Now, there's the older version of GarageBand, GarageBand 2.1, that you can run on some older devices, but if you want to run the full features, then you need a more recent iPad or iPhone. So let's bring up my Studio Live Today buyer's guide here, and we'll switch over to this. So this is what I have on my website at studiolivetoday.com/iPad, and this lists all of the different iPads here that we have. Have I updated? Oh, I haven't updated it for the latest iPad Pro third gen, sorry. I have actually updated, I just haven't uploaded it to the website, so I will do that hopefully later today. But this lets you know all of them that can run the latest version, and look, it says 2.3.5, it's 2.3.7 now, so I need to update that, and it says iOS 11.4. I'm proving that I need to update my website here, but this gives you an idea of all the different features that we can run. So the live loops, having up to 32 tracks, and having the Alchemy synth available are kind of the main things that we want to look at here. So you can see here things like the iPad Mini 3 can run the latest version, but it can't run Alchemy synth. And if we switch over, let's just go to the iPhone version. iPhone. So studiolivetoday.com/iPhone, and we come in here to look at the iPhone buyer's guide. And again, I have updated this with the new XS and XR models, but I just haven't put it on the website. So that'll be a job for me for later today to update to version 1.1. But the same sort of deal here. You can see that the iPhone 6 is the sort of lowest model that sort of runs everything, Alchemy synth included, and then everything newer than an iPhone 6. A 5S can still run GarageBand, but it can't run things like Alchemy synth. And some of our earlier models can run GarageBand 2.1, but they can't run the latest version. So that is what my default answer is. But a lot of folks are like, oh, I've got an iPad 2, can I run GarageBand? I've got an iPhone 4S, can I run GarageBand? So what I do these days, I created this so that I could point them all to one spot, and then everyone can actually find out whether their model can. And then if you're looking to buy a new iPhone as well, I'll just flick back to there for a moment. If you're looking to buy like a new iPhone, you're like, okay, I want to buy the iPhone X, or when I actually update it, you can see what the model numbers are here. You can also see what the storage minimum and maximum are, and you can check out that they do run all the different features you need. So it's handy if you're looking to, say, buy a second-hand iPad or iPhone and you're looking to make sure that it will run GarageBand. I've put this together so that you don't have to wonder. You can just jump in and find out for yourself. So there we are. That is the first question ticked off. A very simple one, but I do get that question an awful lot. So I know a lot of you would already know that stuff, but if you're new to GarageBand, or if you're just starting out, or if you're looking to upgrade your phone or your iPad, that can be a handy guide to jump in and check out. All right, let's go into question number 2 now, which is, why is my GarageBand defaulting to live loops mode? So there seems to be a lot of folks that get confused around the two different modes of GarageBand we have. I've done a whole video of live loops versus tracks view mode, but what I'll do, if I can work out the technology here, I will bring my iPhone up into here. So we just need to AirPlay it, screen mirror it to my laptop in something I should have prepared earlier. I was a little late here today, so I'll just bring this one up. Make sure it's mirroring, which it is. We're in GarageBand, and let's flick over there. So here is my iPhone. So a lot of these questions I thought I'll demonstrate because it's a lot easier to visually see something than it is to just hear me yammering on for an hour about various different things. So how do we determine the two modes? So this should look familiar to most people. This is GarageBand here on my iPhone. Now to create a new song, we're going to tap Create Document, as most of you know. And if you've just worked in tracks mode, you probably come in here, you just set up your first instrument, you tap it, you go, you do your thing. But up the top there, you'll notice that we've got live loops and we've got tracks mode. So if you've never used that before, if you tap on live loops, it's going to flick you over into our live loops mode over here. And what this does is it has a very different interface. So if we tap on one of these, we'll just tap the hip hop one. I won't go into detail about exactly how this works, but one question I get from a lot of folks, yes, I know I'm using AirPlay. One question I get from a lot of people is, whenever I open it doesn't look like yours, it looks like this. How do I get back to where I need to be? Well, it's pretty simple. All we need to do is tap on the little icon in the top left, so not the little arrow, but the little sort of 3 boxes icon. That's going to take you to your instrument selector, but it's also going to give you that live loops and track view at the top. So we're just going to tap tracks, and we can go back to our tracks view, and then we just tap on our regular instruments as we normally do, and we are good to go. So that is the way that we actually move between those two. We can do the same thing here. We can go back to our instruments and back to live loops mode and move in between those however we like. So that is pretty simple. But a lot of folks, when they're first starting out, they'll be in one mode or the other, and they'll be like, I just can't swap back. How do I get back to the other mode? That's all you need to do, is to just go in there to that instrument selection, little 3 boxes there, and then select the right mode and jump on back. So let's go out of there now, and we'll go all the way back to my songs, and we'll leave that there ready for our future questions. So we'll jump, that's my screen. We'll jump back over to me. I'll put my notes over here now, since I have that on the board there. Let's jump into our third one. I'll do 3, and then I'll jump over and see if we have any live questions here on the live chat. Number 3 is, how do I export my songs to Facebook and to YouTube? So a lot of people create their music and then they're like, okay, I've created my music now, and now I want to share it. How do I share my music? And it used to be quite simple. So Mark Clift and other folks who are here on the live stream will know this, but you used to be able to share your music simply directly to Facebook, directly to YouTube, by just exporting, and it would just export like a picture of your like a GarageBand logo, and then it would have your name of your track, and you'd just be able to play that as a video file. You can't do that now. So what you need to do is actually export into iMovie, and then export from there. So I've got a couple of videos which I will try and endeavor to remember to link, which actually show how to do this. But the process is pretty simple, and that is that you export the track. So let's jump back over, in fact, so that we can show this. We'll jump back over to here. So if I wanted to export this track, I'm just going to hit the select button in the top right corner. I'm going to tap on my track there and hit the little box with the arrow coming out of it in the middle there. So I show this. If you search Pete Johns export, there's a heap of videos about how to export songs, export projects, and all the rest. So we would export song here. Now this is where we can choose, do we want it to be low quality, high quality, whatever. I recommend doing it as uncompressed wave, 44.1 kilohertz, 24-bit. And if you don't have 24-bit there, make sure you enable 24-bit recording in GarageBand. Oh, there's another video, which again, I'll try to remember to link, but if you search Pete Johns 24-bit, you're going to find that video as well. We're going to tap on share. It asks us where we want to put it. And this is where we used to be able to share directly to our YouTubes and our Facebooks. We don't have that anymore. So what we need to do is save it to files or open in or whatever you do here. Saving it to files is going to export our song. And what we basically then have is a WAV file that's on our Files app within our iPhone or our iPad. And once we have that, we can then use that to put into GarageBand, to import into iMovie, to import into LumaFusion, to send to our Mac or PC, to email, whatever we want to do with it, we then can do it. But I guess the answer to this question, the quick answer, we'll just come back over here. The quick answer is that you can't export directly to Facebook and YouTube. You do need to use a third party, an intermediary, which is something like iMovie, which is free. You can download iMovie from the App Store for free, or something like LumaFusion or something on your PC or your Mac to actually edit it as a video and then release it. So I hope that's helpful. As I said, if you want to learn how to do that, I did one with my song Drinking With You. In fact, let's see if I can find that here. I'll see if I can find the video so I can at least show you it. Even if I forget to link it afterwards, I'll be able to show it. I just need to unmirror my phone so that that's not in my way, so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to search me, iMovie. Yeah, I actually find my own videos by putting my name and then the topic I'm after. So, yeah, it's a little bit weird. So if we look over here, it is this one here, Share GarageBand iOS Projects as Videos on YouTube, Facebook, and more using iMovie. So that is the video that I'm talking about. If you wanted to find out more about that, no, we won't play it now. You don't need to see that now. There's my face. But that is the movie that I'm talking about, where I go through in detail how to actually share that, share your projects. So there you go. We're 15 minutes in. We've got through 3. So I knew it would be, I'd be adventurous trying to do this live and trying to do it in 1 hour. But let's jump over now, see who else we have on board here, and see if we have any questions here. So we've got a few more folks here that have joined us. We've got Sesvini, hello from Holland. We've got Family Art Designer, Boa Nuate. I'm not sure what language that is. I should know more about that. I learn a lot doing this. I don't know. We've got Mr. Higgy Drums. Hello to you and hello. Kid Juice is here too. And the Prophet David Bynum. Blessings to you and to everyone. So welcome aboard. We don't have any questions yet, which is good, but feel free to throw the questions out there. I do have a lot to get through, but there'll still be some time for a few of your questions. We'll just have a quick drinks break. I haven't worked out a way to not have a break, as in to actually have a drink. So yeah, sorry for that. A little bit of dead air for just a few moments there. Alrighty, so that is numbers 1, 2, and 3. Let us jump back now. Hello to Dalen and to Goran, who've just joined us before I jump back over to my notes. Great to have you on board here. We are 3 into our top 10 questions about GarageBand of the year. Number 4, the question I get now. This is one I got just this morning. I got a different version of this one, and that is, how do I import music files into GarageBand? And the second question of this is usually, and how do I do that from YouTube? So people want to be able to download the audio from YouTube, like a YouTube clip, and then they want to import it into GarageBand. Now, I don't have a video about how to do it from YouTube for a few reasons. The number one is copyright, that a lot of YouTube videos are actually copyrighted, and I don't condone downloading copyrighted material to use in your own. Even if it's someone like me who doesn't mind it, YouTube doesn't like it. The whole licensing thing gets really complicated, so I recommend against it. If you do want to do it, search around. There are plenty of resources that you can do that. So most of them are websites where you can actually go on and you can put a link to a YouTube, and then you can download the WAV or an MP3 of the audio, and then you can import that. So, but what I'm going to focus on is the actual process of the importing side. So we will, now that I've stopped mirroring my phone, I'm going to go back and I'm going to send my phone back to my laptop here. So I can bring it up here, position it. So this is where I need an assistant. Position it in the right spot, and then we will throw it back up on our screen here. Excuse me. So if we want to import some audio, so I'm just going to open my latest track here, and I won't go into detail about any of these because we just don't have time, but I'll show you really quickly. The little loops icon in the top right corner, the one that's got 5 next to it here, I'm going to tap on that one. It said I've added some, I'm going to move these files. Basically, if you add files into any other location but the GarageBand file transfer folder, it's going to do that. Yep, again, I thought I turned my notifications off. Oh well, it's just my YouTube comments coming in there. Sorry for that. So this is my GarageBand file transfer folder where all of my files will be, and this is how we can import them. So there's a few things that we can import, and I show this in the video, which I'll show you where that is in a minute, but we have Apple loops that we can do, which you'd be pretty aware of, and if you search Pete John's loops, you'll find my video about that. We've got files, which is anything we put in our GarageBand files transfer folder, which is in our files app. We've got music, which is our music library. Now this is music that is actually synced, that we've either bought on iTunes or that's synced over from our Mac or our PC. So you can't just sort of throw an MP3 in there. If you're doing that, you need to use files here. And lastly, but the most useful, is this bottom option, which is browse items in the files app. So this means, so as I said before, the only folder we had before was this one, the GarageBand files transfer folder. But if we want to bring in anything from anywhere else, you can see here on the left, we can do it from, our iCloud drive, our Dropbox, our external USB, not any external USB, the iExpand drive. We'll talk about that in a moment. So any of our locations we can actually drop in. And then when we do that, we'll just cancel that. When we do that, all we need to do is tap and hold and drag it into a blank track, which I should have prepared earlier. Down, 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 down. Down the bottom here. There we go. And drop it. And then it will drop that entire track into our song here. So any WAV, any MP3, any AIF, any M4A, any supported audio file, we can drag and drop straight into our project here. And then if we solo it, it should, if we turn it up, not work. Yeah, sorry, small technical issue. Hang on, I just need to unplug and plug back in my headphone jack because it's trying to play over AirPlay, and we'll try that again. But I never pay the tab. I just don't give a... And there you go. So that was my song, and obviously if you wanted to bring in another song, someone else's, with their permission, keeping copyright things in mind, then you can absolutely do that as well. Alrighty, we're going to move on from that. Otherwise, let's just undo because we don't actually want that in my new song. We're going to undo and go away and get rid of that. Let's jump in and do another one. So that is importing. Importing audio files is super handy and super useful here in GarageBand for your tracks. So, the next one's a pretty big one, which is all about USB devices. In fact, I've got two questions here, which I'll do at the same time, which is how can I connect USB devices to my iPhone or iPad? And can I connect a USB flash drive, which I just sort of touched on briefly. And then the second part of this is why is my USB device not working? So I'm going to call this numbers 5 and 6 combined, I think. Have I done 4? Yeah. So this is 5 and 6 combined because they're all related to the same thing. So let's talk USB and iPhone and iPad. So, so the absolute basics and the simple thing, and I thought I had one handy here, but I don't have one. They're all over there. The holy grail of things for connecting USB is the Lightning to USB adapter or the camera connection kit. Now, there's two different types of these. There's the standard Lightning to USB adapter, which is just a single Lightning at one end and USB at the end. The other end, then there's a Lightning to USB 3, which has Lightning at one end and USB and Lightning at the other end. That's the most useful because you can charge your device. You plug that into one end, you plug another Lightning cable into power, so you're charging your device, and then you have a USB port, and you can plug anything you want into that USB port, and then you're good to go. Now, when I say anything, I don't mean anything. I've got a couple of videos. Let me see if I can just find these videos. I'm just going to unsync my phone again, and then I'm going to USB, Lightning. I'm searching for my own videos again so I can show you what I mean here. So if we come over here, we've got a few videos here that I've done in the past. So the top one there is just your standard Lightning to USB 3 adapter. So that's where I upgraded to the Lightning to USB 3. This second one here, which is how to connect USB devices to your iPad or iPhone, is the one that actually shows you the two different devices. And there's links to all of the devices and things in the descriptions of those videos. Another one that's kind of unrelated there. And then this one here is the one that's probably the most interesting because this is connecting multiple devices to an iPad or an iPhone using a powered USB hub. So that is one that I recommend checking out because it's the problem with connecting devices is that your iPhone and your iPad have a limited amount of power. And even when you're using the USB 3 adapter, that's only powering your device. If you have something like this microphone, for instance, this is a Samson CO1 large diaphragm condenser mic. If I plug this directly into my iPhone, for instance, it brings up an error that says this device uses too much power. It's probably, if you've tried to connect things via USB, you've probably seen that before. The way around that is to get a powered USB hub. So it does need to be powered, which means that it plugs into a wall socket as well as into the USB port and plug into your device. If it doesn't, it's not going to add any additional power. And once you have a powered USB hub with like 4 ports, you can then plug in 4 devices and it doesn't matter how much power they draw, they'll be fine. So I do that for when I'm recording and I want to use a USB microphone perhaps, and I've got a USB audio interface like the Steinberg UR12, even the Samson MixPad, the mixer that I'm using right now, that can connect via that, and then my keyboard as well, my MIDI keyboard. So the other thing I've probably got that's worth looking at is the MIDI keyboard video, so how to connect with a MIDI keyboard. So once again, I will try my best to put some of these links, but again, if you just search my name and then USB or my name and MIDI keyboard, you'll tend to find a lot of these. Now, the final thing I'll say about connecting USB devices, and again, I'm only just scraping the surface in these responses, you can get more details in those videos, is this one here. So I did a specific one where I got a $3 cable and then I got the original $50 cable. It costs $50 here in Australia. I think it's about $30 US, but so I compared the $3 cable with a $50 cable. The results were okay, it worked, but the problem with the knockoff cables is that over time, Apple update their iOS and then the older cables that you buy that did work suddenly don't work. And yes, I could rant for hours on the whole Apple thing and only supporting genuine products and not supporting third-party products, etc., etc. My recommendation is save yourself all that hassle. It's a big investment, big-ish, but once you have one, I've got two. I've got the regular and the USB 3. It cost me, like $80 a couple of years ago. They've gone brilliantly. They've not missed a beat, and they work perfectly, and I literally use them every day. So I recommend them. Yes, again, it is an investment. It shouldn't be the case. It is the case. Yeah, we need to deal with it, unfortunately. Alrighty. So I think that was 5 and 6, yeah? We're doing well. We're over halfway through, and we're not over halfway through our time here. I'm very conscious not to spend a whole pile of time going through this, because I know a lot of you will know most of this, and then for those of you that are jumping in just looking for some interesting answers, you don't want to be waiting around for ages. Alrighty, let's come back here to the chat and see who else. So we've got Valsi, hello to you. Rob McCabe, g'day to you too. Anthony from New Zealand, you're up early too, my friend. They're in New Zealand. Cashboy Kwan seems to have a question, so I'm going to jump back to that. And as does Chris Bullpit, so I'll jump back to that. As does Sesphony. So Brian Zimmerman's here as well. Danny Elliott, hello, my friend Danny. And the rest of you, I think I've said g'day to. Let us come back. So, Cashboy Kwan says, how can I make music sound more clear and professional with my iPhone with Apple headphones? So I would recommend, without going into a lot of detail, I would recommend, there's you guys in the chat, I actually have a video where I go into this in a bit of detail. So this one here, which is recording with no gear in iOS using the internal mic. So I use the internal mic in this one. In other videos, I actually show using the headset mic as well. So I'll try and find some of those as well. I think it might even be this one, capturing your ideas in GarageBand iOS. But if you watch that one, that will then link out to some other videos. But that gives you sort of the tips and techniques of how to get a clean sound, how to sort of set up your room, make sure that there's no sound around you, how to point and direction the mic. And I actually, over and above a headset mic, I recommend the internal mic, especially on an iPad, but even on an iPhone. They're actually surprisingly good. And if you sort of position it facing you and you record that way into it, then you actually get a pretty darn good sound, considering it's a couple of tiny little microphones. It's a better sound than it deserves to be, basically, than you should actually get. So yeah, check out that video, my record with no gear video. That should help you, work out what you can do with very limited gear. And you'll hear in that I get a decent sound. I recorded a whole demo, acoustic guitar and vocals, of one of my songs. I think it was Your Opinion, just using the internal mic, and it ended up sounding pretty good. I've actually done backing vocals using the internal mic or a headset and just left it in there because I couldn't be bothered re-recording it, and it sounded fine. So, Chris Bullpit, do you have a video showing how to use a live loop in track view if it's possible? So you can combine live loops and track view in the video that I show. Oh, did I show it before? Maybe I didn't. Let's bring that one up. This is good. I'm going to be spending like the next hour after this going through and collecting links to put in the description. Anyway, it is this one here, Chris, which is how to use live loops and track view in GarageBand iOS, iPhone, iPad. So if you search Pete John's live loops, which is all that I just did to get to that one, then that is going to bring you to that video. And again, I'll attempt to link it down as well so that you can take a look afterwards. But it's a little bit clunky, a little bit fiddly, but you can use audio recorder to record your own loops and then use them in live loops. And you can also combine it back. I think you can go back the other way and use a live loop. You can definitely bring tracks into live loops. Not sure if live loops plays nicely if you've set it up as tracks, but you can switch between the two. So once you're in live loops and you go to track view, you'll see it in the video. You can go to track view and then you can switch back to live loops view, play around with it and do your recording, which is actually pretty cool. So you can set up some bass tracks, like, well, not necessarily bass guitar, but you know what I mean. You can set up some loops and some sort of layer your tracks, then go into live loops and like perform over the top. That might be another video for another day. I should do that in more detail, perhaps. Excuse me. Alrighty. Do we have any other questions here? So Brian says, using the 4-port hub, I'm able to use my Microsoft ergonomic keyboard. Yeah, I know. How cool is it using a real keyboard? I do the same. I plug in my USB keyboard into a USB hub, and I use that for my keyboard shortcuts, which are one of the things that were updated in GarageBand. Kubrick Lover 1972. I do GarageBand on my MacBook Pro. Can't you change the tempo while the song is going on? Change the tempo while the song is going on. That's a good question. I'm not sure on the Mac because I'm not a Mac user, unfortunately. On iOS, I thought you could actually change it. What you can't do is have multiple tempos in the one song. In fact, it's probably one of the top 10 questions. So I'll see if we get to that. Otherwise, I'll go back to that. But Daddy's answered that anyway to say hover over tempo and drag up or down. So yeah, I think you can actually do that. I'm just not sure if you can while you're playing back. Maybe we'll play with that when we get to the tempo question in a little moment. Alrighty, yes, we are at the halfway mark. Thank you to everyone who is here live. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for your questions that we've had so far. I hope you're finding this top 10 countdown interesting and that you're finding out some new things or just reinforcing some old things. And yeah, as I said, we've got people here in the chat that are actually answering each other's questions too. So you're doing my work for me, which is awesome. Thank you for that. Excuse me. Alrighty, let's continue on. So our next question is, how do you master songs in GarageBand iOS? So mastering, what is mastering first and foremost? So for those new to music recording, let's just do a quick crash course in the music process. So what I say is this channel is to help you create, record, and release your best music. So creating music is all about songwriting. It's getting your ideas down. It's tracking your vocals. It's recording that. Recording is kind of that whole recording process. So getting all your tracks together, recording your guitars, your vocals, your pianos, your live instruments, your virtual instruments, getting everything in there. And part of that will be mixing as well. So I advocate mix on the way in. Don't wait till the end to do all your mixing. Don't just record everything and then have to mix everything at the end. If you want to dial in some compression, if you want to adjust some EQ, add a few effects, do that while you're recording as you're going along so that when you hit the final stage, which is mixing and mastering, you don't have a whole thing to do. So my song at the moment, if you're following along with my song 6 and 8, which I have a series, bit of self-promotion, I have a series going on at the moment where I'm recording and releasing a song. Yes, I'm like 6 days over when I meant to actually release it, but hey, sometimes life gets in the way. If you're following along with that, you'll notice that I've got like a rough mix and it's almost sort of like ready to go. In fact, I've got a SoundCloud version of the song, which I might play at the end of this video, just so you can have a listen to that, which is the rough mix. So now I'm in the mixing phase, and then I'm saying all of this to say that once you have a mixed song, you're like, yes, I'm ready, this is good to go. There's one final stage, which is called mastering. And all mastering is, it sounds like it's so mysterious and it's so difficult, and I'm sure there's probably mastering engineers that want you to think that, but all mastering is doing is adding that final polish. So mastering is usually all around limiting or compression, EQ, and maybe a little bit of effects on there as well. But that is basically it. So if you've done a good final mix, your mastering process should just be making it, I'm going to use it, radio ready. So it should just be taking your mix from being something that you're like, yeah, this is good, I'll share this with my family and friends, to if I handed this, if I released this to a streaming platform, if a radio station grabbed this and they played it, they would be able to play Foo Fighters, then your song, and then Nirvana, and it would fit in there. I happen to choose music that I like, old school. Let's say The Killers, then your song, then Muse. So you know what I mean. It's radio ready. It's going to be at a volume, and it's going to sound, the EQ is going to be such that it's going to be able to sound not the same as, but similar and be competitive. Because what a mixed song will sound like, what a mixed song will sound like is it won't be as loud. So when you mix a song, it's not sort of pushing up towards 0 dB. What mastering does is it usually increases. Now, you don't want to crush it. You don't want it to just be this loud mess. And I talk about like the sausage waveform, which is like when you see your waveform and it's just going straight across. You don't want that. You still want some dynamic range, but you want it to be loud enough to actually compete. All right, I've spent 5 minutes actually explaining what mastering is instead of telling you how to master in GarageBand, because there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can master in GarageBand and in other applications. And as usual, this is sounding more like an ad for all of my other videos, but I don't want to spend time explaining things if you can go and watch a video and check it out afterwards. So the 2 videos that I would recommend are the ones right here, and I've found these just by searching Pete Johns Mastering. Number 1 is where I mastered a song just in GarageBand iOS. So I just used the plugins in GarageBand iOS. There's some sort of hidden plugins that you have in there that are a limiter and some EQ that you can actually use to master. So that's one that I recommend. The other thing, and what I use most of the time, is Final Touch. So you need an iPad, and it does cost a think it's $30 Australian, maybe it's about $15, $20 US. So it's not a free app, but it is a really cool mastering suite. It's like a whole suite of plugins on your iPad. It's a separate app. You export your song from GarageBand into your Final Touch session. You master it. You get all of your levels sounding right. You export it, and that's your final master. And when I recorded my entire album, which I did in August last year, I mastered it 100% in Final Touch, and it came out sounding pretty good. I listen to it now, and I'm like, oh, I really wish I'd done this, or I really wish I hadn't done that. Don't worry, everyone has that. Every time you release a song, you're going to look back on it and think, oh, I wish I did it differently. But don't let that stop you releasing. I'm not going to go on a rant or a tangent about why you need to release your music. I do that enough here. But yeah, just take it as stated that you will find faults in your own music, especially once it's already released. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Move on. Create your next song. Create your next masterpiece. Masterpiece. See what I did there? Master. Yeah, right. What I should do is drink like a whole bottle of this before I start these, because I talk a lot and I talk quickly. So we'll slow things down a little bit. We will jump back over to we've got 4 left here in my list here. I'll jump back over to the live stream here and see if there's any questions that we have from you good folks before we continue on. So I'll just scroll back up a little bit to see what we have. So Danny says, yeah, it's remarkable how well you can do using only the internal mic in your iPhone and iPad. Agree. You can get some really good sounds. It's very, very cool. Izzy Wizzy says, what's the size of your iPad? So my iPad is a 10.9 inch. iPad Air 2. I showed this earlier, but let's just jump back. So I can't type my own website. If we go to studiolifetoday.com/iPad, again, sounding like a giant advertisement for my own website. But if we go to my iPad buyer's guide here on the website, so this also, does it include? Well, there you go. It doesn't include the size, or it kind of does. Down the bottom here, I've got the sizes of the iPad Pros. So they're 9.7 inch, 12.9, 10.5, etc. And the new 11 inch, which I don't have in here. But yeah, I think the iPad Air is a 10 inch or 10.5. No, 9.7. So mine is a 9.7 inch iPad Air 2 with 64 gig of RAM. So I've got one right in the middle of the specifications there. So that's what I use. But yeah, use whatever works for you. We've got Mike Swaim, trying to learn GarageBand to do multi-tracking recording with my Zoom HN, doing video interviews and podcasting. Your video has been helped. Oh, thank you. I thought that was a question, but you were just letting me know what you're doing. Thank you. I'm glad the videos are helping. I try to provide information that is based on what people ask for. That's why I thought I'd do this video, because I'm like, I got all these questions built up. I've responded in text to all of them, but I thought this would be a good thing to have, because if I answer all of these questions in one spot, then when I get them in 2019, which I probably will, I can point them and say, this video here, this has all the answers, hopefully. Cool. Brian Zimmerman, I'm going to master in Reaper thanks to my zip and unzip shortcut video. Yeah, that's probably the other ones that I have done a video on mastering in Reaper as well, which is this one here, mastering a track in the Reaper DAW. So that is another option. You can zip up your files, and it's actually related to another thing that we'll talk about in a moment, but you can export your final track and then you can send it over to your PC, bring it into Reaper, Studio One, Pro Tools, whatever you're using, and mastering is actually really good because GarageBand is bad at exporting stems, so individual tracks, so it's bad for exporting to mix somewhere else, but it's really good for exporting to be able to just master. So you can just export the high definition WAV file, so the 44.1 kilohertz, 24-bit WAV file, send that to your PC, pull it into whatever you want. So, and there's other mastering apps too on iPhone and iPad that you can use. Oh, and the one other thing that I have to mention here is the FAX Maxima. So I did another video. In fact, I think I have a whole, yeah, look, I do. I've got a playlist. This is the one that I will link to, is my playlist here. In fact, I'm going to copy that link address and I'll paste it over here in the chat right now, just so I don't forget it. So that's my mastering mastering playlist, which has all of these different videos in it. But the FAX Maxima is a very cool limiter plugin that I've used for mastering on my song Never to Blame, which we heard a little bit of earlier. So if you want a good mastering plugin that you can use on your iPhone, then check out the FAX Maxima as well. Had I finished that? Oh, so I've got a question here. Yes. Hey, I have a question. I was using the section A and B and so on. I used the whole thing up to Z or Z, and every time I try to select A to edit the piano, somehow it would go to a different letter section. I'll be honest with you, I've never got up to Z or Z, so I guess that would be 26 different sections. I've never come across this. Yeah, if anyone else has come across this with their sections, let us know. The only thing I can suggest is go to all sections and see. So let's bring up my iPhone here and we'll see if we can emulate this. We'll go to GarageBand and we will send this back to my screen. And we'll take a quick squiz and see if we can make this happen. I'm not going to sit here and create 26 sections in a song, but let's go to my song here. So what you're saying is, if we bring my iPhone up here, when we go to our sections, so to get to sections, oh geez, how do we get to here? What have I done? There we go. We press on the plus in the top right corner. So here's all my song sections. So, oops, not catching up. The AirPlay wasn't catching up. So in all sections there, it's going to show everything out here, and we can scroll forward and back through all of our sections. If we tap that and then we go, say, section B, it's going to bring up it's going to zoom in on just section B, which is bars 2 to 10 for me here. You're saying you come in here and you go section A, and then when you come here, it doesn't go to section A like it does there. It goes to a random section. So, no, I haven't come across that. Sounds like it might be a bit of a bug and a bit of a frustrating bug. I would maybe try moving your sections around, coming into edit, and maybe just moving it around and seeing if that does anything to help. Did I just move? I just moved that section. Undo. I hope the undo works on sections. Does it? Probably not. Probably just ruined my song. I think it was section O. You're learning a valuable lesson here. Don't mess around. When you're demonstrating stuff, don't mess around with a song that you are actually in the middle of working on. All right, I think it was just section O there. Good thing is I'll be able to watch the video afterwards and find out. So if it doesn't work, I'll be able to go back to the video evidence afterwards. But no, I haven't come across that as a problem before. So I'm sorry that that's happening. Yeah, hopefully you can get it resolved, because that would be really super duper frustrating. All right. Let's get on. What have we got? We've got 17 minutes left here in the show. So let's jump over to our frequently asked questions. So this is one that I get that's actually going to be really easy to answer. And while I have my phone set up here, I'll be able to answer it live. I do have a video too, which I will, again, attempt to link. But is how do we add the note labels? So what are the note labels? Well, you probably know these if you've been using GarageBand a while. If we've got a virtual instrument track, like let's grab our piano here. If we go to the piano interface here, we have all of these note labels. So when we play our piano, which we need to unplug and plug back in again. Sorry for the click. So if we play our piano like that, we've got note labels there. So we can see what's our C's, what's our A's, what's our B's, all of the rest of it. But how do you actually get those enabled? Now I have to remember and make sure I'm in the right spot, because I can't actually remember if it's in here, if it's in the advanced here, or if it's out in the other section. No, it's in the other section. So let's go for a little bit of a ride out here into you get to see behind the scenes of what apps I have on my home screen. Hopefully there's nothing personal here. No, you know my name and you know my Wi-Fi network. Before I get there, before I make a mistake and live stream like my password or my email address that I don't want to, I'm just going to come back to here while I go to the right spot. So what we're going to do is I'm scrolling down the left, and I'll tell you when I get there. We're going to our settings, and you might be aware of this or you might not, but there's a separate settings spot that we have in here, and we'll bring you on back now, which is here. So under regular settings, if you scroll down on the left, you'll have all of your apps there. And if you tap on GarageBand, which we'll do there, we get a whole bunch of additional GarageBand settings over here. And I've got a whole video on these, of course I do. I think I called it the GarageBand hidden settings. So I'll link to that one as well. So we can change our knob gestures, our crosstalk protection, our automatic recording length, and this one here. keyboard note labels. Oh, and the enable iOS effect plugins was those additional hidden plugins as well. So if you're doing mastering or you just want to enable those, that's where you do that. But keyboard note labels, turning that one on, there is what gives us our note labels over here in GarageBand, so we can actually see what we're doing and play our notes. Super cool. So that was an easy one. That was one of the easier ones to explain because it is it's quite simple. But yeah, since it came out, a lot of people are looking for it, and because it's not in that regular section, because you have to go into the settings and then find it in that other section, yeah, it's a pain in the butt. So yeah, if you want your note labels, that's where to get them. Alrighty, we're moving on here. All right, the next question is, can you send MIDI out of GarageBand to a keyboard, to another DAW, to another device? The short answer, in fact the complete answer, is no. So GarageBand for the longest time did not have MIDI in or MIDI out. It still doesn't really have MIDI in. It has MIDI import, but you can't send a MIDI signal very easily. What you can do, you can use audio unit plugins. So if you're trying to play another app, you can use it as an audio unit plugin or another effect. You can use inter-app audio to play another instrument. So if you're using something like the Sensual Sax or one of these other AUV3 or these audio unit plugin apps, you can use inter-app audio to actually play those and record the output, but it's not recording MIDI. It's recording it as an audio file as opposed to a MIDI file. If we have time, I don't want to spend time now because I want to get through the rest of the question. If we have time, I'll show you a demo of that. But if you've used inter-app audio or audio unit plugins before, you'll know what I mean. But you record it, it records it as a WAV file, not as a MIDI file, which means you can't go in and edit the notes. You can't do anything funky like that. We do have MIDI importing now, so you can import a MIDI track, a .mid track. It's very hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I've got again a whole playlist and a heap of videos which talks about all of this. So if you search Pete Johns MIDI, you're going to find all of the GarageBand MIDI importing information. So you've got MIDI loops, you've got drummer loops, you've got MIDI importing that you can import in a whole track, a whole song into MIDI, but you can't do MIDI out. So why do you want to use? Why would people want to do MIDI out? Well, they want to send their GarageBand tracks or their GarageBand MIDI information out to an external keyboard. So maybe you're performing live and you want it to play your keyboard sound. Well, you can't do that. You can use a keyboard to play your GarageBand sound, but you can't use GarageBand to play your keyboard sounds. Hopefully that makes sense. It's not the answer people want, but it is the right answer. And what can you do? So there are other digital audio workstations. I don't use a lot of these, but in 2019, I'm going to start experimenting with more. So there's Auria and Cubasis, which do have a lot better MIDI integration. They're a paid app, so they're more expensive, but from what I've heard, and from what I've seen, they have much better MIDI integration. So if you're looking for MIDI, looking to integrate MIDI into your setup in GarageBand, not in GarageBand, in iOS, on your iPhone or your iPad, maybe check out those apps. But no, unfortunately, we cannot send MIDI out of GarageBand. We've got two more to go here. This one I actually touched on briefly last week, and I won't spend a lot of time here because we don't have a lot of time. But it is, and I touched on it as well before, but can we export stems from GarageBand? And I think I even showed a quick demo of this, but I'll come in here and show it quickly again. So I'm still working on a video, which has been in the works for too long. There's two methods to export stems here in GarageBand. One of them is to literally solo and then export each individual track. So what you do is you come into your track, you'd solo the drums here. Let's just go back to all sections. I don't like looking at just one section there. You'd solo your drums, you'd export that track as drums.wav. You'd then come in, you'd solo your bass, you export that track as bass.wav, etc. Rinse and repeat. So clearly that is a bit of an annoying thing to do. The other method, which I'll show when I do the final video, is if you merge each of these tracks into a merged audio file, then in the back end of GarageBand, when you zip it up, and then transfer it, or you can actually access it on your phone as well, which I'll show. You can actually get to the recorded audio files of those merged tracks. So there's another way that you can actually do that, which, yeah, we'll touch on when we get to it. But the short answer is exporting stems from GarageBand iOS on your iPhone or your iPad can be done. it's pretty tricky. And I know folks like Matt Anderson, Maffey's Garden, I think he's done this because he had some mixing done by someone else. So it is possible to do. You just wouldn't want to be doing it on a regular basis. It would get old really fast, I reckon. All right, we are coming down to number one, or the last question. And the last question is a contentious one, but it's actually a pretty easy one to answer. And of all of the videos that I've made, this one's probably got the most, not hate, but the most folks questioning me and saying, no, you're wrong, or you can do that, or whatever. And that is, can we install GarageBand on anything but a Mac, an iPhone, or an iPad? And the answer to that question is no, we can't. So a little bit of a history lesson. GarageBand was released for Mac originally back in, I always remember the year, but Steve Jobs and John Mayer got up there and said, GarageBand, it's the digital audio workstation for folks who aren't musicians, which we are still working to remove that stigma to this very day. Thanks for that. So yeah, he said, look, anyone can use this. It's a great tool. It's available on your Mac. And it was created by Apple for the Mac as part of their iLife suite, which was their suite of applications to do movie making, music making, all of your, what we used to call multimedia back in the dinosaur days. But it then was ported or adapted for the iPad, and that was about 5-6 years later. I do need to do like a full history of GarageBand video, which I'll do one day. It was adapted for iPad, and then a couple of years later, it was adapted for iPhone. All of these are made by Apple. This is an Apple product made by Apple for Apple devices. It wasn't always free on iPhone and iPad. It used to cost $7.99, I think, or $4.99 in the US. So I actually bought it originally before it was made free about 4 years ago. So that is the history of GarageBand, and the reason why it's not available on a PC, it's not available on an Android device, it's not available on your BlackBerry or your Windows tablet, whatever it is. It's not available because it's an Apple product, and Apple are not going to make a piece of software to then sell that you can use on a non-Apple hardware, because Apple want you to be part of their world, part of their infrastructure, part of their hardware ecosystem, and that is why they do that. Now, when I do this, here's the video, by the way, that I did over here, which is GarageBand on a Windows PC. No, 100% no. And the reason that I made that and wanted to sort of make it very, like, not controversial, but very direct, is that there's a heap of videos that are like, here's how to put GarageBand on a Windows PC, and then you watch them and it's just someone using a virtual machine to install a version of Mac OS and then run it within that which would be really degraded performance. It would not play nicely with all the audio interfaces and USB. Anyway, you can do it, and that's probably the problem, is that when I say, anytime you say no, you can't, on the internet, you're going to get someone that's going to say, well, actually, you can, because you can hack, you can make a Hackintosh, you can do this, you can install VMware and you can install it. You know what? You're still getting a version of the Mac operating system and installing it on just something that's probably not going to run it as well as a regular Mac. So yeah, you can hack your way around anything. Is the regular user, the people that are asking me the question, hey, can I install GarageBand on my iPhone, on my Android device, or on my Windows PC? Is that the answer they're looking for? No, they don't want to make a Hackintosh. They're clearly, they don't even have a Mac, or they don't even have an iPhone or an iPad. They're definitely not going to want to buy a high-end PC, run a virtual machine, install an operating system, which you'd still have to get a copy of Mac OS, which ain't free and isn't really possible to buy separately and put on a different device. So, yeah, you can do it, but would you do it? Would I do it? No. And every time someone says that, I say, hey, can you just show me, show me a video where you're making a song, you're using GarageBand on your PC and you're making a song. And they're like, yeah. So, yeah, no one's ever actually responded. Proof of concept is different from actually using a piece of software regularly to do something. All right, rant over. All right, we are through, and you probably noticed that I lost track of the numbers there, but there was actually 11 in total. I kind of combined the USB ones into one, so you kind of got a bit of a bonus tip there. We went through 11 in the end. Let's jump over here. We've got 5 minutes left to chat about, to chat with the group here online to see if we have any other questions or anything else that we can do. Yeah. So there's a few questions that folks here are answering back and forth from each other, so I'll leave that with those. So Lado Promose, sorry for butchering your name. Have you experienced often crashing of the Final Touch, starting a noise on the iPad? I haven't, no. So my usual recommendation with that is to turn off and on your iPad if you're getting problems like that. Make sure that you're not using any other apps while you're using Final Touch, because it is pretty resource intensive. And maybe put yourself into Do Not Disturb and airplane mode when you're using it to do your mastering, because if you've got background apps running that are using processing power, using bandwidth, that can cause problems too, and they can be asking for routines from the processor, which is going to slow things down and potentially crash it. So no, I haven't experienced it, but maybe those tips will help you not experience it in the future. Righty. I'll just come down here. We've got more. So Puddingtain says Audio Pro and Logic Pro they like, which is cool. Some more questions that are being asked back and forth, which is all good. There's so Gino Therese says there is a GarageBand knockoff for Android called WalkBand. Not that great though. I was just getting excited. I was about to say, that's really good. And Danny Elliott says GarageBand is one good reason to get an iPhone. Other systems can't do what it can do. Yeah, and that's probably a good final point. Danny, you always tend to make the good points that I kind of finish up on here on the channel. And that is that, the reason that folks have Macs, that folks have iPhones, that folks have iPads is that, yes, you have to deal with the very sort of sealed-in, constricted universe where you have to do things the way you have to do things, which leads to a bunch of problems with flexibility that we've talked about, with different peripherals, with attaching devices. But what it means is that you've got one hardware platform. So if you've got something like GarageBand, if you're running it on, and as I said before, the very first question I had is what device can you run GarageBand on? If you've got it on an iPhone 6 all the way up to an iPhone XS Plus, 2, whatever, then it's still going to be running the same basic. Yeah, you're going to improve, you've got faster processors, you've got more memory, you've got more storage, but it's going to do basically the same stuff. Android devices, Windows PCs, all of the others, there's so much variation. So to get something configured is so much harder. So if I was doing an Android-based show instead of an iOS-based show and channel, it would be so difficult because the questions I get would be from, I've got a Samsung, I've got a Huawei, I've got a different, like there's so many different devices that it would be really hard to actually answer. So that is a good point that you make there. That is why a lot of folks here have iPhones and iPads and Macs, and why we use them, because there is a certain simplicity. Not that means that there's a lack of ability to do things. In fact, it usually helps us with the ability to actually do things. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for those that have been here live. If you didn't make it live, I do this every week at around about this time. It's usually a Sunday morning, my time here in Australia, which means it's Saturday afternoon in the US, Saturday evening, I believe, in the UK and Europe. Probably a bit late for some of the Europeans. So if you are here and it's late, thank you. I appreciate you hanging out with me on your Saturday night. So thank you for all of the kindness. Now, a few people have asked, and I don't do a lot of sort of self-promoting stuff because it's not the point. I want to be helping you folks. But if you do want to help me out here on the channel, there's a few things you can do. You can watch my videos. So obviously, the more videos you watch, that actually helps me out and it helps promote the channel. You can watch the videos. You can subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. You can like and comment on my videos. And I make a point to respond to every comment that I get. Even the haters will get a response to their comment. And funnily enough, I won't go on too much of a tangent, but someone made a comment on my video this week. There was a bit of a negative comment. I responded to it, but then they gave me some really good follow-up feedback. So I was like, yeah, that actually worked really well. I've started with like, oh, sorry to hear that you didn't like that. Could you give me more specific information? And they went, oh, I was expecting this, and you actually did that. I was like, oh, okay, that's very cool. So thank you for that. On the live streams here that we have, there is something called Superchat, which again, I don't promote a big deal as well, but that is where you can donate directly to the channel here. So you can obviously chat and I'll answer all your questions. I'm not gonna be prejudiced and go, hey, if you pay me, I'll answer your question. No, but if you do want to support the channel, Superchat is a thing that you can do. You can also listen to my music. So you can go to petejohns.com or petejohns.com/album. If you want to check out my latest album, you can stream it directly from there to your Spotify's, your Apple Music's. You can buy it on iTunes. You can do all those good things. And if you want to look stylish in 2019, you can even pick up a Studio Live Today t-shirt, a little bit like this one that I'm wearing here. I didn't deliberately wear this so I could promote my merch, but if you go to studiolivetoday.com/merch, you can check out the t-shirt and even a mug. And I don't even own the mug yet. I've got to buy myself my own merch because, I'm just using the standard water bottle. I should have a professional looking Studio Live Today mug that I'm sipping from as we go along. Alrighty. So thank you, everyone. Everyone's saying Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. I hope 2019 is amazing. Thank you to Danny, to Brian, to Kenneth, to Sesphony, to Mike Swain, Chris Bullpit, Prophet David Bynum, Chris Ritzik, Kubrick Lover 1979, a whole bunch of other people that I've probably missed that were here. We had Mark Clift on earlier. Thank you to everyone. Thanks for all of your support here on the channel. I hope to see you on another live video very soon. And enjoy your music creating here in GarageBand or anywhere else that you choose to create. Thanks, folks. I'll see you soon.